Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at the secret buffs for the upcoming Open Great League season, and those buffs are Pokemon that actually didn't get a direct move update or anything like this, but still going to be way better in the upcoming season because of Pokemon that got nerfed or other Pokemon that got buffed. So let's take a look at the first one already. If I sound a little bit different or like a little bit weird, my nose is a little bit blocked, so keep that in mind, sorry for that one. But otherwise, we're going to have here right now the Runerigus as the first Pokemon. That's going to be one of the coolest new additions to the meta most likely, because this Pokemon really didn't want to play against the Noctowl. This Pokemon definitely doesn't want to play against Noctowl, as all the moves are kind of resisted, or like even double resisted. So now where Noctowl going to be most likely gone, this Pokemon going to be way better. Of course, still they're going to be the Mandibuzz, which is going to be one of the hardest answers for this Pokemon, but otherwise you're going to be able to beat Carbink, you're going to be able to completely hard wall the Registeel, you're going to be able to wall the Medicham, you're going to be able to destroy so many Pokemon in the current meta that I'm fairly certain that Runerigus is actually going to have quite some play right now. So this Pokemon, especially if you can set it up correctly, going to be insanely good against most Pokemon in the current meta, especially now as Noctowl is going to be gone, but you still can have to play a little bit around. But also something, for example, against the Gligar in the matchup. Usually Gligar does not run Night Slash anymore as soon as basically Aerial Ace got buffed. So this Pokemon going to be so much better also against this Pokemon as a matchup, as you can just go for the Shadow Ball, all hitting neutral. And Runerigus itself has great stats, so it's very cool to finally see this Pokemon kind of shine for the Open Great League. So this Pokemon definitely going to be one of the best upgrades for the season without actually getting an upgrade. So let's move on to the next one. Also, one thing before that, if you want to see some updates for the Ultra League, feel free to leave a like on the video and let me know in the comment section, because I saw some people asking for some Ultra League upgrades already. If you're interested for this today, feel free to leave a like and let me know in the comment section. But let's take a look at the next Pokemon that's going to be buffed here right now, which is going to be Lickitung. Didn't get a buff itself, but of course going to benefit by quite some nerfs here, for example, as you're going to have here the nerf against the Noctowl again. This Pokemon going to be the main Pokemon that helped other Pokemon to shine a little bit more this season for sure, as this was the biggest nerf for the season. But we're going to see here right now the biggest answer for this Pokemon with Noctowl going to be gone, so the lick damage is not going to be double resisted against this Pokemon now. Especially as you're going to have now also the nerf of Earthquake onto the Galarian Stunfisk, allowing you to win the one-shield scenario, as well as Galarian Stunfisk going to be a little bit less common. And yeah, otherwise, you're going to be still a little bit tricky against the Mandibuzz, which I at least expect to see a little bit more often. But otherwise, you're going to be also fairly decent up against the Medicham, winning the one, and I think it's a 0 and the 2-shield scenario against it. But also the general scenario is going to be a little bit easier, as the Psychic is going to be nerfed a little bit, and this actually kind of benefits the Lickitung as well. You're going to be able to win usually against Gligar, which is really cool. Also, Sableye going to be a little bit more common, as well as Cresselia most likely this season. So we're gonna move on to the next Pokemon here right now. Also, again, benefiting a lot by having the Noctowl removed basically from the meta. Especially also though that the Carbink is now around, and the main meta is Carbink, Medicham, as well as the Registeel. Going to help the Venusaur, especially the Shadow Venusaur, quite a bit, as you're going to be able to beat all 3 Pokemon with this Pokemon here right now. Even the Registeel, while you only do resisted damage, Frenzy Plant going to hit a lot harder there against the opponent compared to the Zapcan or the resisted Focus Blast. So the Registeel going to not have the greatest time against the Venusaur. And otherwise, there are also a lot of different other Pokemon that you're going to be able to hit fairly hard. So I feel like Venusaur going to be, especially as a Shadow variant, a very great lead for the upcoming meta, as this Pokemon going to be very, very strong, especially as a lot of people don't really expect to be a grass type Pokemon. They're not really that highly ranked on PvPoke most likely, but it's still going to be very strong, especially as you're going to also do some decent damage against something like a Gligar. Yes, they're going to be able to beat you with the Aerial Ace usually, but if you have some energy advantage already against Gligar, against the Pelipper, two of the most common flying type Pokemon most likely, going to not appreciate the Venusaur either, so that's going to be very nice for it. We're going to have here right now the Medicham. This Pokemon actually got a nerf on Psychic, basically doing 5 less damage, which can impact a few matchups, of course. For example, the Registeel, for example, the Lickitung, for example, also some other ones which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But still, this Pokemon going to be as needed as before basically as well already, because you're going to have now the Steelix around, which is going to be one of the biggest meta threats. You're going to have the Carbink, which while it is going to be a fairy type Pokemon as well as having Moonblast, you're going to win the 2-shield scenario against it. And you're going to also have now Gligar around, a Pokemon that's double weak to Ice Punch. And especially against the Shadow Gligar, you're going to be very decent up against it, because you're going to do enough damage with the Ice Punch and the counter damage basically to knock out the opponent, which is very beneficial for the Medicham. So this Pokemon itself going to actually be even more important this season compared to the last one. But there's still going to be some counters as well against it, which is also going to be a little bit more common, which is going to be very nice. So let's take a look at one of them. We're going to have, the Sableye. Sableye is going to be very important and also going to benefit quite a bit by the Noctowl nerf, as Noctowl was the hardest answer for it. Again, basically compared to also the other Pokemon prior, which you had with this, Mandibuzz is still going to be a little bit of a tricky one to deal with this, but it's going to be a way better Say-Stop nowadays again, as it doesn't have to fear the Owl basically completely locking them in, doing no damage with the fast move alone. So Sableye going to be definitely benefiting a lot. Also Shadow Sableye going to be very decent, and also going to have a decent matchup against the new flyer like Gligar, which is going to be nice, and also just in general against the core meta, you're going to be very decent against it. Yes, there's Carbink. Carbink is going to be a little bit tricky to deal with for sure, but in general, you're going to be a little bit safer to run Sableye nowadays, which I feel like is a good thing for the meta. I feel like it's cool to see some actual save swaps coming back again, where yes, you can still lock them in, for example, into a Wigglytuff or something like this, but they're just a little bit safer than just everybody has a Noctowl in the back to basically filter all of them out there. So I feel like that's a cool change. Next one, going to be definitely benefiting by the Lantern nerf there, which hopefully going to be 2 energy. We don't know it directly yet at this point of time if it's actually 2 energy, but hopefully it is. But yeah, if Lantern is going to be less common, especially with Spark, you're going to definitely appreciate the Pelipper a little bit more, especially as there are also a lot of fighting types around, a lot of ground types around, like now the Steelix as well as the Gligar, which are now buffed in this meta. So Pelipper going to be a great core breaker in the current meta, and also going to be doing at least super effective damage against the Carbink. Yes, the fast move going to hurt quite a bit against it though as well, so you're not going to be able to most likely win the matchup, but still, up energy against Carbink, you're going to do a lot of damage as well, so it's going to be a very good Pokemon in the current meta, especially with the Lantern nerf. Just has to be in the right matchups though, so definitely good Pokemon to use in the upcoming meta, and got definitely a huge buff actually in my opinion, just because of the Lantern nerf. Let's take a look at the next Pokemon here right now, which is going to be Registeel. Here, for example, the Galarian Stunfisk matchup going to be way better, as now Earthquake does less damage, so you're going to be less often into farm down range for the opponent's Galarian Stunfisk with a Registeel, which is going to be definitely really good for you. As well as you're going to need the Registeel to counter the Carbink, to counter the new Flying type Pokemon, to counter the Lickitung, which is coming up a little bit more, to counter the Steelix right now. So Registeel will not go anywhere, and it's most likely the safest save-swap in the current meta again, being able to win even easier now thanks to the Psychic nerf. The 0-shield scenario against the Medicham is just so overpowered. I really hope that they're going to nerf Registeel for the upcoming season. But right now, this Pokemon going to be one of the best Pokemon to use. So this is going to be fairly decent. Let's take a look at the next Pokemon, going to be honestly an S tier now again. This Pokemon here, Azumarill, is one of the most benefiting Pokemon of the recent meta change, which is a lot of people overlook this Pokemon kinda, but honestly, let's take a look at some of the matchups here, for example. We see already Lantern going to be a little bit nerfed, which is kinda nice, but also Noctowl got nerfed. What this actually changes is, while the Noctowl matchup was kinda okay for Azumarill, you're going to have now different flying type Pokemon. One of them going to be Gligar, a ground type Pokemon, which definitely doesn't appreciate either Ice Beam or the Hydro Pump, but also you're going to have now the Mandibuzz, which is going to completely get destroyed by Azumarill, which is going to be so nice. So Azumarill going to get so much more play, as well as we're going to have now Carbink around, which definitely does not appreciate the Hydro Pump, and still of course the Psychic nerf of the Medicham going to help this Pokemon out also quite a bit, which is going to make this Pokemon even better against Medicham. And that's not even all, we're going to have now the Poliwrath, which completely gets hardwalled by the Azumarill, as well as the Steelix, which completely gets hardwalled. Azumarill is most likely right now one of the best, if not the best Pokemon in the current meta. This thing is completely destroying most of the new meta Pokemon Pokemon, which is kinda wild. So Azumarill is back S tier for sure. Like, there's not even doubt about this right now. Most likely you kinda want to change the moveset though. I would most likely go for Hydro Pump as well as the Play Rough, allowing you to hit Steelix a little bit better, allowing you to hit the Carbink a little bit better. Of course, Ice Beam would have been cool for the Gligar for sure, but I think still with Hydro Pump you're going to be a little bit safer with this Pokemon, guaranteeing either shield or like damage advantage against opponents. So this Pokemon going to be very strong. But there are also, of course, are some counters for this Pokemon. For example, the Trevenant. This Pokemon also got a huge buff for the upcoming season. Being weak, of course, against the Noctowl, which is now going to be most likely kind of gone from the meta, is going to definitely benefit this Pokemon now, having this Pokemon gone. Of course, having the Lantern nerf kind of is a little bit sad for this Pokemon, but there are a lot of other Water-type Pokemon that you can still hit with this one here. But also, still, you're going to get completely destroyed against most of the new flying types as well, especially in neutral scenarios. But if you have like up energy or whatever and you see a Gligar coming in against you, still both Seed Bomb as well as Shadow Ball going to be neutral against the opponent, doing a ton of damage, which was not the case with the Noctowl. So here right now, you're going to be able to beat basically the complete core meta of this meta right now of Carbink, as well as the, Medicham, as well as the Registeel, going to completely hardwall all of those Pokemon. Same goes for Cresselia and Swampert and also the Azumarill, which you just had. So I'm fairly certain Trevenant going to be one of the strongest, most likely the strongest grass type for the upcoming meta, which is very cool to see and definitely one of the strongest Pokemon again. Even though it got nerfed the season prior, it is still going to be insanely good right now. So definitely be prepared for this Pokemon. It's going to be in a lot of teams, I would imagine. If you also saw my video yesterday about the top teams for the upcoming meta, I also put some of them already in there because I knew that they're going to be very decent. So let's take a look at the final buff for this season, which did not actually get buffed directly, which is going to be Cresselia. Having now the Noctowl gone is one of the biggest upgrades for this Pokemon, because Noctowl was a very decent answer for it. Having access to Shadow Ball, being able to destroy the Cresselia fairly easily was not really ideal. Now you're going to have two different flying type Pokemon around. One is Gligar, which you're also going to be able to beat usually, and the other one is going to be Mandibuzz, which you at least have the super effective damage of Moonblast against it. For Gligar, they usually don't run Night Slash, which will allow you to basically have neutral matchups against this Pokemon, but also if you see the meta right now, a lot of Water-type Pokemon, still Swampert is available. We already talked about the Azumarill too many times today. Also, we have the Poliwrath, which was recently in the community day and very strong. And we're going to have also the core here, basically, of Carbink as well as Medicham. And this Pokemon is the best core breaker for this one. And as now Carbink going to be more important, like more oftenly seen, this Pokemon also going to just gain a little bit more importance as well. You have to pair definitely with answers for the Registeel, which is going to be also very common. But this is going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this small video for buffs that you might not actually seen already. But yeah, those Pokemon are going to be super helpful for the upcoming Great League meta. So if you're interested in more videos, definitely check out on my channel. I made a video for top 10 teams already with buffed Pokemon. Check that one out, as well as the top 10 buffs for this season with like actually move updates. So definitely check those videos out. They're on the screen right now, and I see you then. Bye bye.